Today's video is brought to you by Oxido LED lighting. You might think that you can see just fine at night. Well, I did too, until I did this little upgrade. As you can see from this footage, here is some before Oxido LED lighting, and here is some after Oxido LED lighting. The difference is amazing. With high brightness and easy installation, Oxido LED lighting is definitely the route for you. They're easy to install, and they're available for all makes and models. Click on the link in the description below and enter promo code 612motorsports at checkout to get yourself 15% off. Now back to our video. Hello and welcome back to another episode of 612 Motorsports. In today's episode, we're going to be doing a little cleaning on the 96 Chevy S10. We're going to be polishing some rims. We're going to give her a coat of wax. If we need to do any buffing or anything like that, we're going to take care of that. We're just going to snazz her up a bit. But before we get too far into today's video, you know the routine. Go ahead, hit that subscription button, the notification bell, leave a comment, a thumbs up. All that stuff is super helpful, and it's very greatly appreciated. Also, follow along on Instagram at 612 Motorsports. Now, let's get to work. So as you can see, there's not a lot of luster to these aluminum rims. They're a very classic vintage American racing rim 5-spoke mag. Like I said, it's a classic, it's timeless. They look amazing, but it just needs to be polished up a little bit. You know, they've been sitting, aluminum gets a little haze to it after a while if it's not kept nice and clean, so we're going to go ahead and take care of that, and I think that'll really change the appearance of this thing. But otherwise, it's not too bad at all. I did notice that, I don't know how it's going to come out here on the video, but the top is a little, I don't know what to say about it. I mean, it looks great, don't get me wrong. I think it needs a little rubbing compound, and think it needs to be kind of buffed out a little bit just to smoothen it up, bring her back to life. It does have a few areas that can use a little attention up there, but nothing major. I think overall we're looking pretty damn good with it. We are going to give the whole thing a coat of wax, see how she turns out after that. After all, we are going to be selling this. We just kind of got it for a flip and to have a little fun with it along the way. So part of having fun with it is actually doing some work and kind of changing things up a little. I see we've got some wax and some stuff on it. My dad was doing a little bit with the hood. He put a coat of wax on that just to see what would happen, and it looks pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead. I've already started basically down over on the rear passenger side here. As you can see, the difference in the barrel shine to the spoke shine. No shine, all shine. And that was just a little bit by hand, so we're gonna be hitting them real hard here and sprucing them up the best we can. Okay, so we've got our assortment of items here. We're gonna be using a Mother's mag and aluminum polish. We're gonna be using the Mother's power cone, and that sucker's gonna get into all the little tight areas nice. And then we also have a couple extras here, but we're going to be using a few of these smaller polishing cones as well. And there's just some areas that are real hard to get into, and they're just a simple, nice little tool. You hook into a drill and give her heck. I've got my little Allen key here so I can pop the center caps off like I did with this one already, so that I can polish everything nice, and I'm not getting gunk all in these little holes and everything, so we're gonna have a nice clean finish. So we've got our necessities. Oh, and I can't forget, gotta have the dew. Boys from Pepsi, if you're watching, hit a guy up, would you? Okay, so like I said, I had already kind of started on this one. As you can see how amazing that looks compared to how dull and unlustrous that looks. But what we're going to do so that we can get in all of these little areas is we're going to remove a couple of the lug nuts at a time and then put them back on and then move to a couple others. But if you can see here, let that focus, we've got not your typical acorn lug nut. So there is a special tool that actually, it's a special socket that has that groove set in there, and then it's just got a regular hex on the end, so you use your breaker bar and you can pull that off. So we're going to go ahead and do that quick. I love my trusty speed wrench. So what I like to do is actually put a little on the surface that I'm going to be cleaning. And not put it right on the ball, just so I'm not flinging junk all over the place. So I've got my small cone on the drill. So we're just going to go to town on this. So as you can see, with that focus, we're kind of unable to get into the further areas there, which really isn't a problem, but it's not ideal per se. We're just going to have to work a little harder and use our fingers and really get in there, but that's all part of the process. You're going to get a lot of black, especially with aluminum. It's actually kind of part of the aluminum, so don't be alarmed. That's natural. This is tedious work, so you can see the difference on how shiny that is already. And like I said, it's tough to get in all those little areas, and I still have a little bit to get up in here, but I mean, look at the reflection versus the reflection. This isn't done yet. This doesn't have any compound or anything on it. That's just the the haze that is on it. So you can tell by the reflection of my hand there to there. That's quite a difference in appearance. But you can see there's some crud and some crust and who knows what on here. And that's what I'm talking about. Just taking the time to clean that up nice, because you don't want a super clean wheel and then you got crusty old lug nuts. You can see the difference. Remember before, you couldn't see a mirror image without it being all hazy. So now we're pretty dang good. That barrel is looking mighty sweet. But it's these little nubs in here that get a little tricky and difficult and around the valve stem. And as you can see, we did pretty good here. I'm not gonna argue with that. That just looks a lot better than it did before. The only thing we got left to do now is the center cap, which if you put the two next to each other, you can definitely see a difference in how they look. So we're gonna clean this up. You can already see a pretty good difference in the appearance of that. It's quite a difference between the before and after. Okay, so we got the rims done. Definitely a major improvement. We still have a little bit of, I guess, compound or polish on the tire itself. We're going to clean that up. And actually, we're going to come back tomorrow and finish the tires. And then we're going to hand buff the roof here. Alright, so it's the next day and we're going to get buffing on the roof of that thing. We might buff the hood as well, just because there's the top areas where everything kind of sits. It's not as important to do on the sides for this particular project, but just the flat top surfaces are what we're going to really pay attention to as far as buffing, and then we're going to throw a couple coats of wax on. But I did notice the other day when I was farting around under the hood here that, well, you needed a new air filter. And after looking at it, we just are going to put a whole new air cleaner on the actual one that's on here. As you can see, from sitting and moisture and whatnot, that kind of stuff, we're actually getting some rust. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but it's rusting up a little bit. That's just where condensation and things are going to sit and settle. So I went ahead and I ran down to local O'Reilly's and I picked up a brand new guy here, the same model, the same everything. So we're going to go ahead and throw that on. And I also picked up some chrome valve stem covers and caps, because when I was cleaning the wheels yesterday, we're missing a few of these on a couple and none of the caps actually match. So it's just kind of nice to have some uniformity as far as the small things go. Remember, it's in the details, right? So we're going to go ahead and do that quick, and then we can shut down the hood and get buffing. Look how rusty and crusty that filter looks. That's horrible. horrible. Okay, so I see that there's a little notch cut out of this to make room for this little spring right here. And I wonder it's pretty necessary. So we're running this demon carb on here, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and match this up on the new one and fix that. So yeah, look how nasty that is. And we're basically going to mark it off. So as you can kind of see here, I've got my area marked that I'm going to be cutting out. So I'm not a metal fab guy, but I got the notch cut from the top. Looks not too terrible, but what we're going to do is we're going to change the bits in our Dremel, and we're just going to clean up those edges a little bit. Perfect. I don't know how well that'll show up, but that's what we kind of had the clearance for, which was that little screw and mechanism there. So we're going to go ahead and put our filter in. I'm going to go ahead and put our final touch. We're going to wipe all our greasy, dirty fingerprints off. Wipe down our valve covers here a little bit too. They've got some marks on them that don't need to be there. And like I keep saying, it's in the details. It really is. Just a quick little wipe. Not gonna hurt anything. And there you go. Fresh and clean. I cannot emphasize details enough. It is more important than you think. It's what the eye is drawn to naturally. Much better. Okay, so our next project is to buff this roof. You can definitely tell that it brought a shine to the finish, something that it was lacking before. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. Remember, if you haven't done so already, go ahead, make sure you're following me on Instagram at 612 Motorsports. Also, subscribe to this channel, leave a thumbs up, a comment. All that stuff is super, super helpful, and I do truly mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And as always, stay positive, work hard, and make it happen.